Welcome back, everyone. It's hard to believe this is already our 8th deep dive into the amazing work of Laura Lewonder.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And for anyone new here, we've been exploring Laura's books, all about self-reflection, and trust me, they're incredibly intriguing.
They really make you think.
Absolutely. And get this, today is super special because it's launch day for her newest book, Tougher, Smarter, Better.
That's right. Out today.
You can find it right now on Amazon, but before you run off, stick around because we're going to give you a sneak peek of the wisdom you'll find in it.
I think the timing of this book is especially interesting, like we live in this culture where it's all about hustle and pushing ourselves to the edge, but Laura seems to be offering a different perspective, a different path.
Exactly, and that's what I'm so excited to explore. To give you a taste, we're going to focus on the preface, prologue, and the first few chapters. And it all kicks off with Laura's personal story in the preface about her experience competing in a bodybuilding competition.
Oh,
She was pushing herself like to the absolute limit, physically and mentally, to the point where it really became a breaking point for her.
what's fascinating is it wasn't that she lacked physical strength, right? It was that this experience revealed a flaw in how she thought about toughness altogether.
Right, it was deeper than just muscle.
Exactly. It was a whole mindset shift.
And it makes you think because she was pushing through the pain but still feeling inadequate. And it's something I think we can all relate to in some way, like striving for something and realizing that the way we're approaching it just isn't working.
Absolutely. And that leads perfectly into the prologue where we get to Laura's defining moment. She describes feeling completely drained after a workout and finally asking herself, why?
Why am I pushing myself like this? What's it all for?
Such a powerful question, and one that I think resonates with a lot of people today who are feeling that sense of burnout. Like we're constantly bombarded with messages about doing more, achieving more, being more, and it can be so overwhelming.
It really can.
And that's why this book feels so important right now. It's not about giving up on our goals, but about finding a healthier, more sustainable way to pursue them. A way to face challenges without, completely breaking ourselves in the process.
I love that. Okay, so then we move to chapter 1 where we dive into what Laura calls the toughness trap. And we meet John, this classic entrepreneur, right? He's the embodiment of that traditional idea of toughness.
Okay, I'm picturing him working nonstop, pushing through exhaustion, never showing weakness.
Exactly.
Yep.
And, well, you can probably guess what happens.
Burnout.
Burnout. And Laura does this clever thing by contrasting John's experience with her own bodybuilding prep to show how dangerous that power through no matter what mentality can be. Like it's this myth that we need to ignore our limits to succeed.
It's a recipe for disaster, really.
It is. The chapter then goes on to highlight all the downsides of this traditional approach, not just burnout, but also potential health risks and even becoming emotionally detached. It's like we're sacrificing our well-being for this external idea of success.
Yeah, it's like we're programmed to think any sign of struggle means we're weak. But Laura argues there's a smarter, more sustainable path to reach our goals.
And that's where things get really interesting. She introduces these 3 pillars: self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and strategic action. And these pillars, they seem to be the foundation for a different kind of toughness, one that's more in tune with our human needs and limitations.
Exactly. It's a shift from brute force to a more holistic approach. So we have these 3 pillars, right? Self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and strategic action. And I think what makes them so powerful is that Laura doesn't just leave them as these abstract ideas.
Yeah,
She actually shows us what they look like in real life using a lot of her own experiences.
exactly. Like she talks about that bodybuilding competition again and how things could have been different if she had understood self-awareness back then.
Right. Like if she had paid more attention to her body, to how she was feeling emotionally instead of just pushing through it all, she might have avoided hitting that breaking point. It's not about being weak or giving up. It's about understanding your limits.
And knowing when to adjust how you're doing things.
Exactly. And then there's emotional intelligence, which is interesting because we usually think of toughness as being all stoic, not showing your emotions.
Right. Like suck it up.
Exactly. But Laura actually says that understanding and being connected to your emotions is a super important part of being strong.
It's like it's not about letting your emotions control you, but being able to manage them,
Yeah.
especially when things get tough.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about our own emotions either, right? It's also about being able to understand other people's emotions too.
Which is so important in relationships, in work, everywhere. Think about how many arguments we could avoid if everyone was a little more in tune with each other's feelings.
Right, it would change everything. And then we have strategic action, which is all about making decisions with intention instead of just reacting to everything that happens.
So being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. It's about setting priorities, planning ahead, and being able to adapt when things, inevitably change, which is hard.
It is, especially in today's world where everything moves so fast.
Yeah. And a big part of that strategic action is understanding how important rest and recovery are. Laura really pushes back against that always-on mentality that's so common now.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, we always praise people for pushing themselves to the limit, but Laura says that real toughness means knowing when to take a break and recharge.
Absolutely. It's true what they say.
What's that?
You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself, prioritize rest if you actually want to show up and be effective consistently.
Makes total sense. It's like we're so focused on doing
Yeah.
that we forget about just being. And that actually reminds me of something else Laura talks about, purpose. She says that having a clear sense of purpose is really important for getting through tough times and staying motivated.
It's like when you know your why, it's easier to keep going even when things are hard.
And to make choices that match what you really believe in, right?
Yeah. It's like your guiding principle.
I think so many of us get caught up in how to reach a goal, how to be successful, but we don't really stop to think about the why behind it all.
It's easy to get lost in all the details.
It really is. But Laura's saying that when you connect with your purpose, figuring out the how often becomes much clearer. It's like your purpose is a compass guiding you in the right direction.
Love that.
This is making me think about my own life and how I can use these ideas. I'm definitely going to try to be more self-aware and prioritize taking breaks.
Me too. It's a good reminder that true toughness isn't about ignoring what we need or pushing ourselves until we burn out.
It's about taking a more balanced and mindful approach.
Absolutely.
So for everyone listening, what's the one thing you want them to take away from this conversation so far?
I think more than anything, the takeaway is that real toughness doesn't mean ignoring your limits or pushing through no matter what. It's about building self-awareness, learning to work with your emotions, and taking action, but like strategic action, action that fits with your purpose.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of approaching challenges.
It really is. And remember, this is just scratching the surface of what Laura covers in Tougher, Smarter, Better.
Right.
There's so much more in the book, waiting to be discovered.
Oh, yeah. Tons of practical advice. Actually, one thing that really stood out to me was how Laura deals with self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
That inner critic we all have, it can be so paralyzing.
Totally.
But she gives you strategies to quiet that voice, to realize that self-doubt doesn't have to control us.
It's about noticing those negative thoughts, those patterns, and choosing to think about them differently.
Right.
Instead of, I'm not good enough, it's I'm learning, I'm growing.
It's a small change, but it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. It's focusing on progress, not perfection, which I think we could all use a little more of.
Totally agree. And she also talks about asking for help. Like, we don't have to go through tough times alone.
So true.
Friends, family, mentors, just having those people who believe in us can be so powerful.
Absolutely. That support system is so important. Speaking of support, Laura has a whole chapter on rest and recovery. Something we often forget about when we're chasing goals.
Oh, I know I do. I used to think rest was something you earned after pushing yourself to the max. But Laura makes this really good point about how rest is actually crucial for reaching your goals.
Right. It's not being lazy, it's being smart.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that our bodies, our minds, they need time to recover, to recharge, so we can do our best.
You can't just go all the time.
Exactly. And those breaks aren't just about physical rest, right?
Yeah.
It's also mental and emotional recovery.
Like mindfulness, being in nature, doing things we enjoy, just giving ourselves permission to step away from the grind and do things that make us feel good.
And when you take care of yourself that way, you're so much more ready to handle whatever challenges come up.
It's about building that resilience.
Exactly. That's what this book is all about.
Yeah.
Building resilience, finding the strength to face whatever life throws at you, and doing it with a clear sense of purpose.
So everyone listening, we've only just skimmed the surface of what Laura covers in Tougher, Smarter, Better.
But hopefully this deep dive gives you a sense of the insights and tools she has to offer.
If you're looking for a way to navigate challenges and come out stronger on the other side, this book is definitely worth checking out.
Grab a copy on Amazon. It's out now. And let us know what you think.
Yeah, leave a comment below and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Tougher, Smarter, Better. We'll see you next time for another exploration of self-discovery and growth.